rookie training camp hype can sometimes be fool's gold, but actually sometimes it's legitimate. You've seen examples in the past of rookies getting training camp hype, like, for example, Isaiah Pacheco. Brian Thomas Jr. had really good training camp news last year. Puka Nacua a couple years ago was getting a lot of training camp hype. And so a lot of times, yes, it's nothing, but sometimes it's something. And so, when some of these rookies are as cheap as late thirds or fourth round picks in Dynasty, it might be worth a guided dart throw just to go get them on your roster. And so these are guys that maybe you should go pick up off of your waivers, or maybe you should go trade for them. Some of these guys are already rostered. Some of them probably aren't in most leagues. But guys that, I think some of it could be legit. Let's talk about Brashard Smith first. Now, I think Brashard Smith at this point, with all of the hype in Dynasty, is probably rostered in 81% of Dynasty leagues. And so there is a small percentage of Dynasty leagues where you could still get him. But for the most part, he's not really rostered anywhere. Now, Brashard Smith, we are on record saying that as a prospect, we did not like him. His bakery score sucked, and he wasn't a very good prospect. The same could be said about Isaiah Pacheco. But what do these two guys have in common? You might be like, well, they play for the Chiefs. Yeah, that's exactly right. In this situation, from a running back position standpoint, that's actually really important, because the Chiefs don't care who you are, where you're drafted, or how bad at football you are, because Isaiah Pacheco on any other team in the league would suck. I just think he would. I just don't think he's that good. That's my opinion. Whatever. Brashard Smith, while we don't believe in him as a prospect, the Chiefs got him, and the news with Brashard Smith is already that he's getting some run. This is from Nick Jacobs, a beat reporter for the Chiefs. Don't see them as 1 through 4. Pacheco is between your tackles back. Kareem is the power and short yardage back. Elijah Mitchell is your zone and outside back. And Brashard Smith is your speed, off-tackle, counter toss, screen, and wide receiver threat. Some other videos. Mahomes for Brashard Smith, out in the flat. The running back 2 would probably be a stretch for Brashard Smith at this juncture. This is from Charles Goldman, but I could see it if the Chiefs suffer some injuries. He's undoubtedly going to have a role on offense. I previously likened it to more of a change of pace back for Andy Reid. His background as a receiver will lead to increased usage in the passing game, wheel routes, Texas routes, screen passes, shovel passes, orbit motion, basically any other receiving quirk out of the backfield, which is how he's been used, and he's been mixed in with the first-team offense for Kansas City a fair amount. With other teams, this means almost nothing. With Kansas City, it's absolutely intentional. It almost always is intentional with Kansas City. They drafted him, they knew his skill set, and they're like, here's how we're going to use him right away. And he's been catching touchdowns with the first team. I mean, this is Mahomes ended the period in the red zone with touchdowns to Travis Kelce and Brashard Smith. I legit think that they're probably going to use him at least to some extent this year. And maybe I'm wrong and I'm stupid about it. But here's the thing. I would rather be wrong and stupid about Brashard Smith than probably somebody that's worth a lot more in Dynasty, because Brashard Smith right now is the running back 62 on Keep Trade Cut. He's equivalent to the 308 this year. He's dirt cheap. You know what? With Pacheco's injury history, with Kareem Hunt being old and coming off of working at McDonald's last year, I will absolutely take my shot on Brashard Smith for a late third or a fourth. No question about it. And if he's on waivers, I'm picking him up and putting him on my taxi squad. Even if this leads to nothing, again, the investment, the get-in price for Brashard Smith is nothing. This is an offense historically where they have taken bad analytical running backs like Isaiah Pacheco, who also had a very bad bakery score. One of the lowest bakery hits of all time is Isaiah Pacheco. In the Chiefs' offense, it does not matter. This offense is an anomaly for bad prospect, bad analytically bad running backs, and Brashard Smith just looks like the next iteration of that. While he's not going to be the starter there or the workhorse, he definitely can't be that in the NFL. He's going to go up in value. Avery Huffman, stamp of guarantee he will be higher than running back 62 at some point in the next 5 weeks. Yes. Guarantee it. Even if it takes a preseason game for people to figure it out, he will go up in value. I promise you. Yep. And you could even flip him and maybe even get an early third if you buy him for a fourth, which that would be a value win, a small value win. But isn't that what Dynasty's all about? Brashard Smith, keep an eye on him. Who knows what he'll do, but he's very cheap right now.
There's a reason we love day 3 running backs, investing in them regardless, honestly, of what their analytical profile might say, because all it takes is just a little bit of hype, just a little bit of training camp hype, and they will shoot up boards. Ja'Cory Groski-Merritt is no exception here. I mean, I remember joking in the early offseason about like how, when you're looking at the efficiency of Groski-Merritt and what he was able to do in the receiving game and in the rushing game, his analytical profile is so low, we're never going to be talking about him. Lo and behold, we're talking about Ja'Cory Groski-Merritt because he goes in the 7th round to Washington, and honestly, a more wide-open running back room than some might believe, because Brian Robinson is very limited. I think even people that are Brian Robinson truthers, quote-unquote, understand that he does have his physical and athletic limitations to a point where, like, hey, Washington has no incentive to go ahead and extend him. And I don't think they're going to anytime this season because he's just not as talented as what they could get through the draft or even potentially strike gold in day 3 of the NFL draft any given season. And Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, while I don't think that he's a guarantee to be, the long-term answer, I just care about opportunity. I care about hype. I care about value wins and value increases. And when you're talking about a taxi spot, using a taxi spot on a guy like Crosky-Merritt is a very, very good idea because when you see repeated news about a player throughout the offseason, it's the same thing from multiple different reports, from multiple different reporters, from multiple different times of the offseason where they're doing early offseason workouts, when they're in mini camp, when they're in rookie camp, when they're in training camp with the whole crew. It's all the same stuff with Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, and all of it is centered around his athleticism, his elusiveness, his explosiveness, and his size, and how basically going into minicamp in June, they were essentially expecting him to, like most 7th-round picks, going to be a cut candidate. And then they saw him come in, and they were pretty surprised at how big his frame was, and they were floored by how athletic he looked. With Crosky-Merritt, he always did showcase some nice tools at the collegiate level, but again, it wasn't high enough for anyone to want to draft him high in the NFL draft. But he is a one-cut slasher with physicality and contact balance, according to beat reporters. And when you're talking about his fantasy outlook this season, according to Ben Standing, you've got Dan Quinn talking about him, saying the violence of his cuts is incredible. He gets a shoulder square and gets downhill fast. Essentially, that he's a more mature runner than they expected, and where he needs to improve is pass pro. If Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt wants to get opportunities on the field, he will have to get at least competent in pass protection, and that does matter in training camp. So you're going to want to keep eyes on him throughout this entire month in August. If he can get better and improve in pass pro, he will be breathing down Austin Eckler's neck for the running back 2 spot, and he might even start eating into Brian Robinson's workload in the middle of the season at some point. Because again, Brian Robinson does not have a chokehold on the running back 1 spot based off of what he did last season. He was essentially exactly what we thought he was going to be. Touchdown or bust. Touchdown or nothing. Low ceiling, low floor. If you flex him and you're lucky and he gets red zone opportunities, then he'll produce. Crosky-Merritt, this is the perfect room for him to be in to start eating into this opportunity with all the other running backs in that room, because none of them truly have the athletic traits and talent that he's showcased to this date.
Let's talk about Dante Thornton. You'll remember Dante Thornton from our Sleepers video, because actually, given his profile and his really not a ton of volume at Tennessee, he actually was a sleeper for us this year, because despite being selected in the 4th round, he was nestled in the bakery around guys that had 2nd and 1st round draft capital. He had a very strong analytical profile for a guy that really wasn't a very good target earner, kind of a deep threat, etc. But we put him on there because, again, analytically, the numbers, they do suggest that he could potentially be a sleeper. And when you're looking at some of the training camp headlines that have come out of the Raiders, actually, Dante Thornton has gotten pretty decent usage so far in training camp. Jack Besh is probably projected to be the guy that was going to line up alongside Jacoby Myers. Obviously, everybody is lining behind Brock Bowers as the lead wide receiver in that offense. But it's actually been Dante Thornton in 11 personnel and 12 personnel that has stayed on the field more consistently than anybody with the starters. He's had some touchdowns, obviously, in training camp, which, again, it doesn't really mean a whole lot, but really the main thing is Dante Thornton, they drafted him. Chip Kelly has been very complimentary of Thornton throughout training camp, and the fact that he's on the field, again, he's probably not going to be productive in this offense, and that's really because it's going to be Bowers, it's going to be Genty, and it's going to be Myers before it's probably Dante Thornton. But Dante Thornton is going to have some boom games this year, / boom plays maybe, because he is that speed, will beat you with down the field, big playability guy. And right now, again, he's somebody that's worth like a 4th. And so, he's 22 and a half years old. He's a wide receiver, 81. If he's on your waivers, which I got to see let me see how many waivers he's actually on in this. If he's on waivers, I think he's probably worth picking up. He's rostered in 72% of leagues. So some of you guys still have him on your waivers, and I think he's worth a taxi squad stash. Again, I doubt he's probably going to do anything of relevance in the NFL from a production standpoint, but I do think he might be a smart value play. And again, he's super cheap. He's getting a lot of good run right now with the starters. I think he's probably going to end up starting there in Las Vegas. And at the end of the day, anytime you have a young wide receiver like that with, at 6'5", 205 pounds that runs what he does, he ran a 4.3. And that's kind of freakish. And so I'll definitely take the freak and put him on my roster and see what happens at that point. It's worth the risk in my opinion. So very little risk.
So apparently this has turned into the Courtland Sutton and Denver Broncos week across DFF and DD. But again, I'm not talking about Sutton this time. I'm talking about Pat Bryant, who I do think has a legitimate road and avenue to become the technical schematic wide receiver 2 in that offense. And again, that's not saying a lot because when you look at the depth chart right now in Denver, it's beyond Courtland Sutton. It is not pretty. I mean, you're looking at Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Devon Vele, and that is literally it. Everyone else after that is a complete no-name. And with Pat Bryant, he's been getting a lot of love, not just in training camp, but even in mini camp before the early offseason as well. I think a lot of people are going to overplay the Michael Thomas comps that Sean Payton is giving him. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with his size and what he showcased in college. I mean, Pat Bryant coming out of Illinois had a nice almost 1,000-yard season as a senior in 2024, and he's like 6'2" and over 200 pounds. So what I've been seeing mostly from Pat Bryant is, according to beat reporters and all the news out of training camp, is that Pat Bryant is getting a lot of red zone opportunities and end zone targets specifically. And that's very, very important. Again, when you're talking about a third-round wide receiver who, from an analytical profile perspective, isn't anything special, you got to start looking for other ways for him to get opportunities and chances to increase in value if you're going to take a shot on him. And with Pat Bryant, I do think that he is absolutely worth a stash and worth investing in Dynasty, getting as a throw-in and a trade or whatever, because of these opportunities that he's getting specifically in the red zone. He seems to be the guy that they want to be the go-to outside of their stars, right? Because your stars are Courtland Sutton, they're Evan Ingram, they're even RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins in the ground game. If you're going to have a third option there and you're trying to win a contested catch situation in the red zone, you are going to be going to Pat Bryant before you go to Lil Tez Johnson, before you go to Marvin Mims, before you go to Devon Vele, who is actually still banged up. So what?
You had to put Lil in front of Tez Johnson? Are you serious? That's brutal.
He literally weighs as much as I do.
So you're Lil Nathan?
I'm Lil Nathan. Sorry, I was just highlighting that Tez Johnson isn't a big dude.
Lil Tez Johnson, he's probably insulted.
Pat Bryant is your contested catch guy. He has the upside and the opportunity to do that. So keep that in mind as you're continuing to monitor the training camp situation in Denver, with who Bo Nix is really tending to target consistently. And I think the news so far with Bryant has been positive.
Let's talk about Taj Brooks here for a second. We'll kind of rattle off these last couple here. But Taj Brooks, obviously drafted, I think, in the 6th round to the Cincinnati Bengals. And with Brooks, obviously there's no starting running back spot open there in Cincinnati. However, Taj Brooks has been getting some snaps as the running back 2 in Cincinnati. And this is large in part because Zach Moss is on the NFI list again. And Zach Moss really hasn't been able to stay healthy since he signed that decent contract with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think that could be something. Obviously, they've got Samaje Perine there as well. But one of the Bengals beat reporter, Mike Petraglia, Mike, I love you, man. But don't sleep on Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech. 6th-round running back. Could be a sneaky piece of the Bengals running game plans this season. And, there have since been reports of him working, like I said, with the second team, occasionally getting in with the first team, et cetera. And so, with Taj Brooks, not a lot to cling to here. And analytically, another guy that we're looking at and we're probably not going to be betting on because he wasn't very good analytically. But again, situationally, if something happens to Chase Brown, this is a guy that I do think would probably get some work right off the bat, especially with Zach Moss not being currently available. And so, is he worth going and picking up? I think he's worth putting on your taxi squad as a sleeper. Maybe if you have an extra bench spot, yeah, I think Taj Brooks could be a guy. 69% rostered in sleeper leagues. And so, there's some opportunity to just still go get him off of waivers. Again, if you want to send something super cheap, that's fine, but this is more of a waiver / stash play right here with Taj Brooks in case he could be the running back 2, and anytime you have a running back 2 in offense, you definitely want them on your dynasty rosters on sleeper. Another one, RotoWire, Taj Brooks looks comfortable as a pass catcher, and so who knows, maybe he gets that kind of work as well. Definitely is going to be in the mix there. How much is yet to be determined. Probably won't do anything, but again, just another dart throw.
Okay, so this is actually really interesting. Jalen Royals getting a ton of buzz out of training camp with Kansas City. And again, that wide receiver room is already kind of crowded with a bunch of Jags kind of just guys. And you're looking at beyond Rashee Rice, it's like Marquise Brown. Obviously, Xavier Worthy is the 2 there, but it's Hollywood, it's Juju, it's Sky Moore who's still there. But again, pretty much beyond Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, it's pretty much wide open. And then Kelsey obviously is playing at tight end, which is plenty of target volume there too. What's interesting is like a lot of people generally overplay like, oh, this guy today is getting first team snaps. We don't like to overreact about that, but we will react to it when they're getting consistent first team snaps throughout training camp. And that's what Royals has been doing, not only to a point where he's getting snaps, but he's also getting consistent opportunities in the red zone. He's had multiple touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns in a day last week. He's gotten more touchdowns and more opportunities and more targets from Patrick Mahomes as he continues to develop chemistry with him. And the comments from Reed, I mean, for Andy Reid to say this, like, it's honestly pretty hilarious. He said he's made some catches. That is hilarious. He said some other stuff too. It was like, good sign. He's been learning. The old stuff is the fundamentals. He's building off those already. He's learning the playbook and all that stuff, which is great. But Royals is seemingly looking like he has a pretty good chance at beating out Juju and Sky Moore, which is really what I care about here, because Hollywood is going to be on the field. Rashee Rice will be on the field unless he's not to start the season, which is mostly he will miss games. He will be suspended for a certain amount of time. And that, I think, is what we care about the most. When it's announced that Rashee Rice is suspended for 2, 4, 6 games and Royals is announced to be a starting wide receiver, oh boy, is he going to shoot up boards. It does not matter what his analytical profile is. It does not matter what his opportunity really is going to be. And what is truly a crowded room with all the mouths to feed there, even when Rashee Rice is out, the moment it's announced, he will skyrocket. So if he hasn't already in your league increased in value, you can go get him as a throw-in and a deal if you want to. If he's on waivers in shallower formats, you can go snag him, throw him on your taxi squad spot. And I think it honestly is a pretty decent investment right now.
All right, I know you guys have been begging for us to talk this guy, Efton Chisholm. The third.
This is like the Bub Means of this year.
This is the Bub Means of this year. He's in a situation in New England where it literally is anybody's game from the wide receiver perspective. Like, it is like an open competition. You obviously have Stephon Diggs there. He's probably going to be a starter. But then outside of that, who have we heard the most about? We've heard the most probably about Pop Douglas, honestly. I've heard a good mix of Pop Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, and Efton Chisholm. I haven't really heard
a lot about
anything about any of the other guys there, which is kind of surprising. But Efton Chisholm, this is from Taylor Kyles, who's a beat reporter. He's buried behind veterans, but he looks like an NFL wide receiver. He's a little wasted movement, suction cups for hands. He's quick upfield, and he has Patriots' most consistent. He's been the Patriots' most consistent young wide receiver, not named Pop Douglas. And so that's kind of what I've heard as well. People have been talking about he's very consistent, he's very reliable, and so he could end up getting a spot on the field. This is somebody that's really been trending up for a while now. Out of rookie mini camps, there was a lot of hype around him, and we kind of just shrugged it off. But this is kind of the perfect video to address this and just say, odds are not going to do much. He's the wide receiver 148. He's almost guaranteed on waivers in your leagues, and if he is, you can go pick him up. And if not, I would not recommend trading for him, but it is worth noting that he is getting some training camp hype. And so, again, these are guys that most likely all of these guys aren't going to do anything. But if one of them does or two of them does, we can say, yay.
One of them does or two of them does.
Then we can clap and say, yeah, we did it. But again, it's interesting to watch the training camp headlines. You have to take all of this with a grain of salt. There is some, there's completely different ends of the spectrum. Brashard Smith, I think, is very real. I think that is a very real thing. Efton Chisholm, I'm not sure that's probably going to turn into anything. Dante Thornton, I think it could be something, but he's not going to be productive. So you just have to kind of know each individual situation. But huge favor. Drop us a like and make sure you subscribe if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. Again, you can get your team reviewed by Nathan and I personally with your team blueprint, where we give you everything you need as you're heading into this season to make sure you're going to win your Dynasty League. You can get it checked out. You can also get all of our free access to rankings, trade calculator, our Discord, everything we offer, one-on-one access to Nathan and I. Come join the best community in Dynasty Fantasy Football. flockfantasy.com/domain. Links down in the comments. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you here soon.